today in Philadelphia as Jason Kelsey, our all-pro center, has decided to hang up his cleats and made a emotional speech at a press conference today. Matt and I will give us our thoughts on Kelsey's career and what it means for the Eagles going forward. All that and more up next on Philadelphia Eagles Talk with Geoff. Well, good afternoon, good morning, and good evening. Whatever time of the day it is that you're listening to this program, welcome to Philadelphia Eagles Talk with Geoff. And yes, it was an emotional day at the NovaCare Complex today for a day and time that we knew was coming and approaching. We didn't know if it was going to be this year. I think most of us probably thought it was going to be this year. But until you actually hear him say it, you kind of hold on and hope that maybe he'll give it another go. But the type of wear and tear that happens to anyone on the lines, especially Kelsey, who was undersized to begin with, and all the tush pushes that he's always at the bottom of the pile, has decided that he is retiring today. And so that is obviously the top of the news and will be the focus of today's podcast. I did have some plans to kind of grade the players for the season, having Matt on for that. We're still going to do that. But obviously the priority with the breaking news today of Jason Kelsey hanging up his cleats and retiring will take precedent. And so, Matt, your initial thoughts on this. I know you haven't had a chance yet to see the emotional press conference that he gave. And I'm sure you'll check into that at some point. But just what's your initial thoughts on Jason Kelsey, one of the all-time great Eagles for sure, hanging it up and calling it a career?
Well, I think all of us are going to be feeling the same way that every other Eagles fan does, right? Like, so his legend as a Philadelphia Eagle absolutely was cemented in stone years ago. Certainly was in 2018 when he gave the speech after the Super Bowl parade that Eagles fans, I think that even surprised Eagles fans, but that started to put him on the NFL legendary status.
Right.
As far as the personality goes, as far as the player, what was he, 6th round draft pick out of Cincinnati?
6th round draft pick. Yep.
6th draft pick, has basically been all pro ever since his rookie season. Like he's had a decade's worth of being the best player or one of the best, like top 3, top 5, no matter what year it was.
Yeah. Well, he's a 6-time all pro. So in 13 years, half of it he's been all pro. Yep.
Yep. Amazing draft pick by Andy Reid, amazing talent. I mean, the Kelsey brothers, are truly legendary. But his personality, in the past year, it's not often you can be part of the Travis Kelsey, Taylor Swift conversation and then dominate that attention as well. Hopping out of the booth at the Buffalo Bills playoff game,
Yeah.
hanging out with the fans, smashing a bowling ball after down in a bunch of booze outside the parking lot. I mean, he is truly NFL legendary status. He's right up there in my own mind with Bednarik and Reggie White and the greatest Eagles of all time. He's absolutely in that conversation and I don't even know if it's a conversation. It's actually pretty set in stone in my mind. There's 3 guys when I think of legendary players that come right off the tip of my tongue. It's Bednarik, it's Reggie White, it's now Jason Kelsey.
Yeah, absolutely. I might add, 1 or 2 other names to that, but the bottom line is, and the point of your point there is that he is an all-time top Eagle player. And, one thing, and I don't have the percentages broken down, but you got to think about, that you're talking about a 6th round pick here, an undersized lineman. What's the percentage of you making it in the NFL for 1 year as a 6th round pick in any position, let alone a line being undersized. I would say that probably, and this is a total guess, I don't have the numbers, but I think it's probably a pretty close to accurate guess that I would say about 95%, if not more, players drafted in the sixth round don't make it more than a year in the NFL. And we're talking about the Eagles picking a sixth round center, and he not only has a career, but is going to the Hall of Fame. And that is a tribute to his work ethic because he was not, again, undersized, sixth round pick. I mean, those guys, if you don't even show a glimmer of hope, or even if you do, when you're not, really standing out, you don't make the cuts. You don't make it. You just don't make it.
You don't get the benefit of the doubt.
Right.
You earn every day, every minute at practice. And,
yep.
That ultimately, though, that's what Jason Kelce was. So.
Yeah, the team doesn't have any real investment in a sixth round pick. They're almost basically throwaway picks after let's just say the fifth round. You just hope that you strike gold, and sometimes you do. That's why you have those other rounds. But for the most part, most of those sixth and seventh round picks, those are just extra players typically that the Eagles are just drafting, or any team, not just the Eagles. And if you're able to find a hidden gem like the Eagles did with Kelce, and they're out there. I mean, it happens every year. You find hidden gems. Look at Purdy, for example. It happens. But, for a guy who's undersized, playing a lineman, it just is a real homage to the amount of work. And like you said, these guys need to stand out to make it, and just to stay on the team, let alone be a starter. And so he deserves every accolade that comes his way for being a guy who was a long shot and is going to be ending up one day wearing a gold jacket in the NFL Hall of Fame. So,
yeah, and I would be surprised. I know there's been all this buzz and talk about, what broadcast team is Tom Brady going to join next year? But I can imagine that the contracts are already being worked up right now by the broadcast stations to be like, how much can we pay Jason Kelce?
Oh, yeah.
On-air color analyst. Because the linemen, by the way, make the very best analysts.
Remember Merlin Olsen had a career. John Madden, obviously the greatest ever, was an offensive lineman.
Dan Deerdorf lineman.
Dan Deerdorf. Right? Yep, I always liked Deerdorf. Yep. That's a good point. That's an excellent point. They do make. Well, they always said like some of the smartest people on the field are the offensive linemen.
The offensive linemen, they know every move, right? They know every chess piece of how the line and the blocking schemes need to go, and blitzes and understanding all that stuff. Like, it'd be amazing. What's crazy is he just retired from an all-pro, all-time legendary career, and he still has the potential for an all-time legendary career in front of him.
Yeah.
And whatever he chooses to do, it's quite amazing, I think.
Yeah, and I think he knows that. Yeah, I mean, he's got 3 young daughters, and he knows he's got a future in broadcasting in some way, shape, or form. And, his body, you could tell at his press conference today, he almost didn't want to admit it. And he basically said it in so many words without actually saying it, is that his body can't do it anymore. And he knows that. Even though the guy was an all-pro last year. Yep. I mean, this past year, he made all-pro. So, but his body clearly is telling him that he's done. And he mentions a play when you listen to the press conference, because I did hear it. I actually watched it today. And he does make reference to a play, and I need to hear it again because I only watched it once, but he's talking about a single play this last year where he is basically saying that he was ran over, and he remembers looking up thinking, that's it. It's funny how he said it. I had to listen again because I'm thinking that he's talking about a play this year, but it was kind of like, I mean, he was weeping through most of the press conference. Like, he barely got through a lot of it. Like, I was thinking he was going to get up and walk off because there were times when he was like completely caught up in emotion where he was almost bawling his eyes out. So it was hard to watch from that standpoint. And but it's what you also get with Kelce. He is always the real deal, and nothing's ever been fake about the guy. He's always spoken from the heart about everything and anything. He's always answered every question he's gotten. giving it thought and not just giving one word answers or whatever. And he poured his heart and soul on the field, and he did it during today's press conference. But he makes this one reference again where he's talking about a play where he just was like flattened on his back, and he just he kind of just knew that, you know what, and he basically called himself. You want to talk about humility? At one point in the press conference, he talked about himself this year as being one of the most overrated players in the league. Think about that.
He would know better than anybody, right? He would know better than anybody.
Yeah. So he just basically saying he knows he's done, and even though he got a bunch of accolades and made the All-Pro this year, that he knows that his body is broken down and he can't do it. He's like Rocky. He can't do it like he can do it anymore. He's like the Rocky Apollo speech, That's not us anymore. We can't do it like that anymore.
Yeah. Well, God bless him, and I think if I had my personal choice, I think he would fit 100% right into the Fox Sunday pregame show. With
Terry Bradshaw needs to retire anyway. I love Terry, and he's contributed a lot, but to me, he's kind of losing a step now, and he's just more spacey on there than anything else. It's like he'd be a perfect replacement for Bradshaw.
Pull Terry, you put Kelsey in there. You got
Kelsey, Strahan, and Howie Long, and
Gronk. It's perfect.
Right, it would be perfect. Well, you know that the bids are out there. It could be Amazon for the Thursday night games. It could be Fox. It could be CBS. It could be ESPN.
I would love to hear from your studio audience, like what is the public's opinion? Because to me, and I think of everyone that watches football, Fox has a more jovial, lively, a little bit looser approach to pregame, whereas I go to CBS and like the expertise is equal. But at the same time, like, God, CBS is dry.
Yeah, it's kind of boring. I totally agree with you.
And everything they do.
Yeah.
Even though I appreciate their opinion. So I'm like, man, CBS might be throwing millions at Kelsey to be like, well, we need some spice.
Get a personality like him. Yeah.
Yeah. And he would take care of it. He would bring that whole team forward with the amount of juice that he would bring to a broadcast crew. But, hey, he was awesome. He's been awesome. He's going to stay awesome. He's authentic. He's genuine. And he is an absolute legend. It's the one jersey that I think, ever since you bought me my Wes Hopkins jersey, favorite defensive player of all time, my next one that I will get as an Eagles fan will probably be the Kelsey jersey.
Number 62. Yeah, that'll be in the rafters too, and at the link someday. There's not going to be another player that's going to wear that number. I'm sure that Lurie, if he hasn't already, is going to announce that he's going to retire that number. Yeah, there won't be another. They also mentioned, it wasn't during the press conference, but it was like up to the press conference. The guys on NBC, I'll give them a shout out, Sports Radio Philadelphia, they said that in college he was number 60. But obviously when he was drafted by the Eagles, he's not wearing number 60 because of a guy that you named about 5 minutes ago, Chuck McNair, was the 60, wore 60. And it was the NFL's last 60-minute man, ironically. Where he played both offense and defense, which is unbelievable if you think about that. But yeah, he was the last one in the NFL to do that. So that's why he chose number 62. So I didn't even know that. I had no idea. That's why that he chose 62, or he would have been 60 had there been that available.
Yeah. It's rare. It's rare air to be in, and before you get any complaints from Eagles fans, of course there's Dawkins and Carmichael. Dawkins would probably be the next guy I would have named.
Well, that's one of the ones I was referencing when I said I might add another.
Right, Dawkins is up there. You talk about the equivalent of emotional energy on game day.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if even Kelsey gets to Dawkins' magnitude, but they're both in that same upper level tier of like, you can't touch those four players. Like, there's no debate.
No, and really Chuck, and I wasn't, neither one of us were able to see Chuck play, but we saw Reggie, and Reggie was more of a quiet leader. He just dominated on the field. He wasn't a really rah-rah, guy like Dawkins. But he just totally destroyed people, and he was just so good and so much better than everyone else. It's impossible not to notice him. And obviously he was an upstanding player and everything else, and a team leader, no, without question. But I was thinking this, and I'm glad you brought up Dawkins, because to me, I never thought that I'd ever see a player, and obviously Kelsey played with Dawkins for a few years. I think they're on the same team early on. I think I might be wrong about that. I don't know how long Dawkins has been retired and when he was traded. Maybe not. Did they play in the same team? I can't remember now.
Good question, because you're talking 13 years back. So you're talking 2011, 2012.
Yeah, and Dawkins left the Eagles for he played in Denver for like 4 or 5 years. He was been retired for 5 years to even make the Hall. So and he made the Hall, what, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, 5 years ago? So yeah, I don't think they did play together.
Yeah, I think they may have been separated by a year, maybe.
Yeah, so what I was getting at is I didn't think I'd ever see a player in Philadelphia ever have such a connection with the fans and just understand the Philadelphia mentality, the Philadelphia, I don't know what, I mean, enter whatever word you want to put there.
Man.
But I never thought that I would ever see someone with the passion and connection with fans like Brian Dawkins had. I just thought that was a unique experience that you'll probably never see again on a team. And I'm telling you, Kelsey, as you know, you can. I don't want to make this. I don't want to make this a debate or anything. With the fans or whatever. It's just to say that there's no question that Kelsey has got just as much, maybe more, maybe a little less, but he's right there with Brian Dawkins on his connection with the city of Philadelphia and the fans.
It's insane to think of, because like everyone loves the defensive hitter, right? So Dawkins has that on the side, but to be a center, like, can you imagine? Like,
right. It's one of the most boring positions in the NFL.
Right? Like, okay, name who was there before Kelsey. I can't even do that.
Yeah, I can. It was Jackson.
Jackson. All right, so
who was actually pretty good.
Jamal Jackson.
Yeah, it was Jamal Jackson. Yeah,
it was pretty good. They had like Hank Fraley before him, maybe.
Yeah, Fraley was there for a little bit. Yep.
Yeah, and then Baldinger, he's more of a legend in the booth, if he's a legend at all.
Well, there's another sportscaster. You're right. You just named another one, offensive lineman that is on TV and in media.
Yeah. So I can just imagine his future is bright. He's going to be. It's the perfect time for him to retire. Nobody wants to see anybody old and broken.
Yeah, you don't want to get hurt and end up missing a season. And again, I made mention of it in the intro. This is a guy that is on the bottom of every one of those brotherly shoves with all these 300-pound guys on top of him.
Yeah.
I mean, think about that. And he's 36 years old.
Yeah. You've got a lot of free chiropractor.
Yeah. You got to be tough as nails to be doing that. And just run it as often as the Eagles do, too. It's not once or twice a game. I mean, the Eagles would run that sometimes 7 or 8 times a game.
And, people can argue different things, but I'll tell you what, there's nobody I've seen better than Kelsey in the years that I've watched football, where if you're in the run game, he's out there to the second level and pancaking dudes out of the way.
Oh, yeah.
Towards the end.
Yeah, that was one of the most fun things to watch him do.
Yep. Yeah, for an all-pro center, that's what he did probably the best, is move and get to the second, third tier before people knew what was going on.
Yeah. Yeah. He would hustle all the way down until the play was over. This is a guy who never took a play off, never half-assed a play. If it ended up being a 30-yard gain down the field, guess who's right there, still blocking?
Yeah. It's usually the first one in the end zone to greet the person who scored.
Well, I'll never forget his booty shake with Miles Sanders in the was that the Super Bowl game or the game to go to? I forget which one it was, but you know what play I'm talking about when he does that dance in the end zone with Miles Sanders?
Yeah.
It's hilarious.
I think it's the only time I've seen him dance.
It's hilarious. I just had a mental flashback of it, and it just makes me laugh every time I envision it. But yeah, he's it's a sad day, but it's also you got to be happy for him that he's going to be moving on, and his body is still. I mean, the guy probably wakes up in pain every day. If you haven't seen the documentary that Amazon's done on him called Kelsey. I know you just watched the Probert one recently, so maybe I don't know if the Kelsey one is available.
No, that was next on the list. I'm a little late on that.
Oh, that one is that was so well done. So check that one out.
And hey, I don't know if this is a sign from God or what, but I don't know how many fans know I participate in these phone calls on my commute from work to home. But I just passed one of the largest bald eagles I've ever seen on a road that I've never seen one just sitting perched in a tree, like right off the road.
There you go. It's meant to be. We're talking Philadelphia Eagles, and Matt sees an actual bald eagle on his commute. Doesn't get any better than that. I love that bird.
I think he had a green 62 carved in, like, spray painted on the side of his white bald head.
He is representing Jason Kelce today and his career.
The intangible for the program. Sorry to bring that one out, but I'm like,
that's. Listen, here's the other thing. I know I invited you because I got 3 tickets when Dawkins got in the Hall of Fame, and because I wanted to be there when he got in. And if Eric Allen ever gets in, which is, he was passed over again, which is just getting more ridiculous every year. But maybe he'll get in the same year as Kelce now, and we can get them both done with one stone. But I tell you, the next one that I want to see, and I want to be there for that induction ceremony is Jason Kelce. That is going to be.
That would be amazing.
That is going to be awesome. So hopefully can make it to the next one, because the whole event was pretty cool. And when Dawkins was there, I tell you, like 3/4 of the fans were Eagle fans.
Yeah.
And that was the same time Ray Lewis got in, and I think Randy Moss. I forget what whoever else was in that class, but it was 3/4 Eagle fans for Dawkins out of all the NFL fans there that weekend. It was crazy.
That's how we roll. That's how we roll.
That's it. That's how we roll, exactly. And I would say second was probably Raven fans for Ray Lewis. But the Eagles easily overwhelmed the NFL Hall of Fame that weekend. It was crazy.
I mean, it's going to be Christmas colors in the audience, because if he goes in the same year as Travis Kelce, because they might just stall on that just to get the two in there together. But
yeah, it depends on how many more years Kelce Travis has left, and he's got. I mean, as long as he keeps winning, I can't see him retiring anytime soon. But he is only a couple years younger than Jason.
Yes.
And he takes a beating, too, playing tight end many times. He gets the ball all the time.
He's got a big-time girlfriend now.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. But he's on such a run right now, I can't see them losing. I mean, they might win another Super Bowl next year. I read mention on my podcast last week, but you weren't on. But you may know this, but I mentioned it to the audience that, the Kansas City Chiefs have the youngest defense in the NFL?
Yeah, I do know that.
That is unbelievable. I mean, that team's going nowhere.
They are set. If they can keep the contracts, it's going to require what in the future? Mahomes is probably going to have to restructure just like Brady did in New England. But if they can keep signing all these guys, and Mahomes he strikes me as nobody that's going to be complaining for a new team or jumping ship. There's no way. So I'm like, they are actually set up for another decade as it stands like right now.
Yeah, so Kelce might extend his career, or like you said, he's got a, mega star girlfriend, and his body's probably starting to break down now too. His numbers fell off a little bit this past year, so he's getting up there, and I don't know. It's going to be, because Kelce, you got to think, would be a first ballot Hall of Famer. I don't know. Maybe they will make him wait a year or so, but he's, wouldn't surprise anybody if he gets in the first time.
Yeah.
You could have back-to-back years with Kelce's going in, though. And I think they would be the first brothers to get in the Hall of Fame, right? I don't think there's any other brothers in the Hall of Fame, are there?
I don't think so.
Well, there will be, I guess, when Eli gets in. Which I don't think Eli's a Hall of Fame quarterback, but he's going to get in because he won 2 Super Bowls.
Yeah.
And his name. But you look at his numbers, they're mediocre. His career numbers are, Donovan McNabb's numbers are way better than Eli Manning's.
Yeah.
But he's going to get in. So those will be brothers that'll get in.
Eli, Brett Favre is kind of equal to Eli in my mind. Like, everyone remembers him from being this incredible quarterback. But I'm like, I bet him and Eli's interception total, I bet you Favre has more than Eli, but I'm not sure on that.
Probably does. But he probably threw a lot more touchdowns than Eli did, too.
Probably did.
I don't know. I'd have to look at those numbers.
Favre's only got 1 Super Bowl.
That's true.
Right?
I think he won at least 1 MVP, though, like league MVP. He might have won a couple.
Yeah, you're probably right on that. Yep.
Yeah, but that'll be but I think you could easily make a case, though, that's the best brother tandem to get in, because, I mean, obviously Peyton is an all-time great quarterback, but Eli's not. But Travis is probably the best tight end ever, and Kelsey is one of the probably top one or two ever in center.
Yeah.
Which, there's Mike Webster, the Steelers. There's a few. Maybe that's the only center I can really think of, but he was an all-time great. But I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's but Kelsey is he's an all-timer, and it's now we got to move on to the discussion here, and that's what the Eagles do. Do they draft another center and keep Juergens at guard, or they drafted Juergens to replace Kelsey? So if you put him at center, which I think is probably what the Eagles are going to do, then they have a gap at right guard now, and who do you insert into that position?
They've actually got two guys. They've got Dickerson and Juergens that were both centers in college. So
yeah, but I don't think they're going to move Dickerson. He's too locked in, I think, at left guard.
So he is Dickerson,
and he's too huge, I think, to play center. Don't you think he's too big? I mean, that guy is a freaking monster.
He's a load.
I would just keep him at left guard. But I think Juergens, the logical move I think the Eagles will do is probably make him a center now. I mean, that's what he is. He was trying to learn right guard. Put him at center, and then they have an opening at right guard. Now, I know that they drafted, what was his name, Steen, who looked okay last year, and they got him. And I know that the jack of all trades guy there, Driscoll, who's a pending free agent though, so they need to re-sign him if they're going to bring him back. I think.
Yeah, especially with Kelsey retiring, they need their key backup lineman, Driscoll.
Because he was always better at guard than tackle anyway. I think he's better inside.
Yeah. So if I'm the Eagles, I don't worry about the center position. I worry about Lane Johnson. I worry about where's the next tackle piece coming from. Let's get that guy secured to the draft this year.
Yeah, because Lane's only got a couple of years to go. Maybe
he's injured. He's been dealing with injuries.
He's got a bad, his bad foot that always bothers him every year. But yeah, Lane's coming up on his end of his career too. So I agree. They're going to have to address the tackle position at some point too. But right now they got a hole at right guard, so it's interesting to be interesting to see who they decide to plug in there. Because the Eagles always love to build around the line, so it wouldn't surprise me also if Howie. I mean, I think, and I've said this on the previous podcast here, that I think the Eagles should go 90% defense in this upcoming draft. Linebackers, safeties, corners. I mean, defensive line. They have needs all over the defense. But if it's going to draft an offense, I did say make it, be an offensive line. That's what I said. And that was before I knew Kelsey was retiring. So
they don't need any skill player weapons. They do need what they're going to do with Goddard with his contract and re-signing him either long term or letting the younger guys play. But Calcaterra seems to be injured often as well. So I don't know. That tight end's the only decision that they got to make on as far as their skill positions go is what are you going to do? You're going to let Goddard go in the next year or two, or are you going to re-sign him and keep him here for a while? But,
and the silver lining is with Kelsey, retiring today, and I always try to look at some kind of silver lining to any type of news. Is the Eagles will be saving $13 million that they don't have to pay Kelsey. So that's a lot of money that they can use towards, they have to re-up Devonta Smith because he's on his last year of his deal. So,
cap was increased significantly
by $30 million. Yeah. So they got the cap increase. They released Bayard. That's going to also save $12 million or something like that. Yep. So the Eagles got a lot of room now with Kelsey retiring to make either bring some guys in or lock up some of these younger players, which I think you got Dickerson. We just talked about him. He's also on his last year of his contract. So you got to lock him up, and you got Devonta Smith. Those two guys that you're going to have to lock up long term.
And then draft all defense. I totally agree with that strategy. Let Vic Fangio pick his defense because he's got a successful track record with that, no matter where he's been.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, and there's a lot of holes on that defense for sure. Especially since even they have Sidney Brown, but he's going to miss probably at least a quarter of the season next year, coming back from his major injury. And there's with Bayard gone, there's zero depth other than Blankenship at safety, so they got a huge hole there. By the way, there's rumors that they may bring CJ back. I don't know if you heard that. I don't know if you heard that.
Yeah. So I would be totally on board with that.
Yeah, me too. I would too. Yeah.
They lost a lot without him.
Agree, 100%. Yeah, if they decide to do that, and he won't be cheap, I'm good to go with that for sure. So we'll see if there's a reunion there. I think that would be a good signing. And again, they'll have a little extra money now with Kelsey retiring. They could put towards maybe could bring in CJ back here.
Well, the war for that one's going to be Lions and Eagles. If the Eagles are interested, it's just those two teams. I don't think anyone else is going to pay as much as Eagles or Detroit to keep them.
Yeah. Yep.
But Detroit, I don't know. Who knows what Detroit's salary cap looks like?
I think they're in pretty good shape. They're not terrible. I mean, they're not. They got a lot of young players in their team. Like I don't think they've signed, but I mean they have guys they got to lock up too. Like St. Brown, I think he's on probably one of his last years that's remaining on his rookie deal, so he might be up for that extension. Trying to think who else. I mean Hutchinson probably has another year or so left to go before they have to sign him up long term. Yep. But yeah, I mean last I knew I think they were kind of like in the middle group of free agent or cap money with the NFL. They're kind of in the middle, so they're in pretty good shape. But we'll see. Yeah, it'll be a battle between those two. And he played for the Saints too, right? So maybe the Saints would also maybe look to try to get him back. Who knows?
I'd love to see they take some money and spend it at the linebacker position. Wouldn't that be amazing?
That would be refreshing. How many years have we been saying that? I mean, you got Jeremiah Trotter's son, who's going to be in this draft, and he's projected to be a potential early second-round pick. So if he's there for the Eagles, he's probably going to be there for their first round, but I don't think the Eagles – I know the Eagles aren't going to – I don't care who it is. They're not drafting a linebacker in the first round. It's just that's never happening with Howie. But if he's there in the second round, if he falls to the Eagles, I would hope that Howie takes Trotter's son or another one or a linebacker. We need one.
Yeah, I can kind of see Howie playing that like the Kobe Dean, though. I would bet that he won't take him unless he slips. And if he slips towards the bottom of the second round,
yeah, that's what I mean.
To the third, then I see Howie maybe making a deal at that point to go up and get him.
Yeah, he'd probably have to fall a little bit. Because the Eagles, no matter how many times Eagle fans out there, which I question how much they really paid attention. It was last year with Bashawn Robinson. You had all these Eagle fans saying, "Oh, they need to draft Bashawn." I'm like, the Eagles are never drafting a running back in the first round, never. But I mean, I'm telling you, there was a good percentage of Eagle fans last year that were saying they need to draft Bashawn. He's coming to Eagle. I'm like, you guys watch this team? Where have you been?
Not happening. I do hope that they signed DeAndre Swift back because he had a great season.
But I don't think they will. I think the only way he's coming back is if the market comes back to the Eagles. I don't think they're going to offer him. If there's teams out there offering him a bigger deal, like even as much as Miles made last year, if it's something like that, the Eagles are not going to pay that. They're just not.
How long did they sign Penny for? Was Penny a 1 year too or a 2 year deal?
It was just a 1 year deal, just like Swift.
I'd be curious to see what happens with both those guys.
Maybe Penny, I don't think Penny would sign with the Eagles. He's got to be pissed. I mean, he didn't play at all last year. I mean, unless the Eagles put it in writing that he's their starting running back, Penny's not signing with the Eagles.
No.
I mean, I couldn't blame him either. I mean, he signed with the Eagles for a chance to play, and he played, 5 plays? He got like 5 carries the whole year?
Yeah.
I can't see him coming back. And I think Boston Scott is done too as an Eagle. I don't think they're going to bring him back either. Another guy they hardly used last year.
Yeah, right? Like, what happened to the merry-go-round of running backs? When they had them evenly getting carries, they were pretty good.
Yeah, it didn't happen last year. They hardly used Boston Scott at all, even. So right now, the only running back on this team is your boy Gainwell. That's it.
Gainwell.
And he's a good running back, but he's not a number one.
No, I love him, but he can't be a bulk.
Yeah, he's a good change of pace guy. That's what he is. So we'll see. I mean, could they go out and get Derrick Henry? Maybe.
I don't want that. I don't think Derek's. I just got. You know what strikes me?
Right,
Derrick
I'm saying he'll be number one, but they could split him and give they won't give him they won't give him the ball 25 times a game like the Titans have. Just give him the ball 15 times.
Here's the thing though, for whatever reason, Derrick Henry on the Eagles, I'm sure he fits in lots of different places, but in my soul, I just see visions of DeMarco Murray coming over and doing nothing. Like I have Henry the King pegged as that guy. I don't want him in an Eagles uniform.
But you would agree that Henry's a better running back than DeMarco Murray was.
Yeah.
I see what you're saying. I mean, he's older. Eventually, he's going to break down because all running backs do. So there will be a year. It might not be just an Eagle thing. It might just be that, at some point, running backs take that big step backwards. And Henry still has yet to do it with all those carries he gets. And you're right. You gotta definitely err with caution if you're to bring him in. And I was just throwing his name out there because I think he's the only one that they might be able to get at a bargain rate because of his age and the number of carries he had. Because like the Saquons and the Ecklers and those guys are going to get much more money,
Yeah, bargain rate. I can see that happening where the market stales and then Henry isn't signed, and then Howie comes along and says, "Well, we'll give you $7 million for a year."
Well, I even think that's too much. I don't even know if the Eagles go that high.
It might be at that position, but let's see what Kellen Moore's got in store. I don't think he really fits Kellen Moore's offense either.
So yeah, I just threw his name out there. I'm not saying it's it's going to happen or I want it to happen. I just put his name out there because I just think out of all the free agent running backs that might be the cheapest, like Barkley's going to get a big deal somewhere, even though he's been injury prone. He's still young. Same thing with Eckler. Same thing with Kamara. And Swift, he's 25. I mean, Swift is going to get a good offer for somebody.
Weren't the Eagles high on the Raiders running back?
Yeah, he's also, right. That's another one. He's young, and he's going to be in the free agent market too. That's, what's his name there?
Josh Jacobs.
Jacobs,
right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and just the Eagles are not going to spend a lot at running back. It's just not going to happen. And if they are, they probably would spend it on Swift. I mean, why not? I mean, why would you not spend it on him? He knows the offense and he had a good year. So I think I think Swift, like, here's the thing. I think the Eagles would not go any higher than $6 million at the very top for a running back per year.
For 1 year?
No, I'm saying for either. I don't know if they bring Swift back. I don't think Swift will sign another 1 year deal. I think now he's had the season where he proved he can stay healthy. Swift is going to want like a 3-year deal with somebody. So
like 3 years, $18 million, something like that.
Yeah, if Swift is willing and the market comes back where he's still out there, and the Eagles, I could see the Eagles. That's about as high as I can see them going. Is a 3-year, $18 million deal. I can't see them going higher than that.
Well, I would take Swift above any of those other running backs.
Oh, me too. I would too. But I don't even know if $6 million might be too much per year for Howie. He might be more $5.15 than $6.18 because that's the budget. They don't spend on running backs. They just
running
don't.
Backs and linebackers, they get them off the shelf.
Yeah, linebackers. I mean, it sounds like, I don't know if you've heard the most recent Howie interviews, but he does seem to have almost admitted without really coming out and saying it that he screwed up with the linebackers. So that's good to hear him say that. I mean, letting what's his face go to the Bears was the dumbest move. Here's a guy homegrown and a tackling machine, and he wasn't even that expensive, and you let him go to the Bears. And he had another great year with the Bears. What's his name? Who I'm thinking of? Who? Edwards. Yeah. Edwards, exactly. And so that was a huge mistake. And it sounds like Howie kind of knows that. Now, I still don't think he's going to go out and invest a lot in linebacker, but I think he's going to pay more attention to that position than he normally would.
Yeah, well, I think Fangio's always had good linebacking cores as part of his defense. He's always had at least one guy, right? So, like, Von Miller, when he was a Broncos defensive coordinator. Bond was a big part of that. And when he went to Miami, he built a defense there with good pass rushing linebackers.
Yeah, Chubb was having a great season under his tutelage.
Yep.
Bradley Chubb, before he tore his knee.
I think he'd use Hassan Reddick in the right way too. So,
well, there's rumors that the Eagles are going to go after. Speaking of linebacker, the linebacker for the Dolphins, the blonde-haired guy, the long guy with long blonde hair. I forget his name, but he's pretty.
Well, and then how much do you pay that guy?
I don't know, but if they can get him at a reasonable rate, I mean, he's a. That's the hot rumor. I forget his name. I don't know if you remember his name, but he's. I've seen some highlights with him. He's got long blonde hair, and I was talking to a Dolphin fan the other day, and they like him. He's like, really? There's rumored him going to Eagles. I'm like, yeah. He's like, oh man, I don't want to lose him. I'm like, well,
he's a good player, but I don't know. There's all these rumors these days. It's like there's just rumors about everything. And you're just like, that guy doesn't watch football.
Yeah, I think they're just linking the rumors because it makes sense because Fangio is now with the Eagles and he was just with the Dolphins. So, and that guy's a pending free agent. So that's why they're saying, well, that would be a guy that maybe he would want to bring over to the Eagles from the Dolphins. So I don't know if there's much more to that. And I honestly haven't watched a lot of that guy, and I can't even remember his name. So I'm not going to spend any more time talking about it because I can't even remember his freaking name. We're going to skip over the grades just because of time. We're already 40 minutes in. But we will talk about a little bit. Well, you got to wonder now, at least the thoughts crossed my mind, that you wonder with Kelsey retiring if it's going to have like a domino effect, potentially, with Fletcher Cox. We're hearing rumors that he's going to retire. And even BG, who says he wants to play again, you wonder if BG, if he sees Kelsey retire and then let's say Cox retires, will BG say, you know what, maybe it's time for me to go too? And then we lose all three of them. What do you think about that? Do you think it's possible?
It's possible for sure, but I just don't get the feel like BG would retire. I think Lane Johnson might be next because that's his buddy on the line. With Kelsey, so
well, Lane is on record saying he wants to play 2 or 3 more years, so he's not.
I hope he does. He does, but I definitely see Cox as being the next old man in the room that would probably be most likely to retire. Graham just seems to have this inner youthful spirit where, and he hasn't been oft injured in his career. He had a later start, it seems like, before he started getting the wear and tear and playing time. So I think Graham's got 1 or 2.
Well, here's the thing: if Fletcher Cox calls it quits also within the next week or so, then I think BG, they almost need him to come back because of the leadership that they're losing between Kelsey and Cox.
Yeah. Yep. BG's always checked in. He's just emotionally up for every game, talking smack at everybody, including the punter of the other team. Like, I can't see BG going or being influenced by Kelsey's retirement to go. He would have been. He can make that decision on his own, but I don't see BG being there. Cox, I think the only one that might be influenced would be Lane Johnson.
Yeah.
Cox has already made up his mind that he's probably in the same boat as Kelsey. Like, this hurts, man. Getting up every day.
You almost see Cox as maybe doing like what who was the guy that they brought in 2 years ago, halfway through the season, like a rental player. What the heck was the guy's name? Yeah, the great, Nagama and Sue. Because Cox can still play. He had a good season last year. And you can almost see him like, you know what? Call me in early November, and I'll let you know. Maybe I'll come back. And just skip half the season if the Eagles are, a team that's on the, going to make the playoffs and they could use a little depth of help or whatever. You can almost see that versus him retiring completely. But I don't know.
Yeah.
I think if he decides to, I think he's going to get some offers to play elsewhere. Like I could see Kansas City or some of these teams that have Super Bowl aspirations that want to bring Cox in for
older folks. Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially Kansas City. You imagine Cox going, lining up next to Jones.
Yeah, jeez.
I mean, he's automatically going to be better. So I don't know, but that wouldn't surprise me. That'll just be another huge loss for the Eagles, though. All right, so we're going to wrap up the show. We're at 45 minutes, and so we're going to spend the next 5-10 minutes. We'll talk about. We're going to skip the grades. We'll do that maybe at a different time. Or maybe not at all. I'm not sure. We'll figure something out. It's off season, so tough to come up with material. But how about and this was your idea? How about put up or shut up players? Which the idea here is, some of these guys have played with Eagles. They're starters or they're kind of on the fringe starters, and it's time for them to either put up or shut up, or meaning stay with the Eagles or cut. Basically a stay or cut type situation. So, what would be some of the players on your list for put up or shut up players heading into next season?
Well, and just one more analogy for this: it's window open and window closed, right? So, like, who on their top Eagles have we seen enough to really say, you're taking somebody else's space, right? Like, it's almost like the Jalen Rager category. Like, who is not playing because you have a spot on the team that we could have improved if you would just be on your way to another team? So I would throw out, and I was thinking like I'll pick a player and I'll throw him out there. We'll talk about it, and then you pick a player.
Okay, sounds good.
And so I'll go with the guy I mentioned before, Avonte Maddox. I love the guy. Philly loves the guy. He seems to be a really solid football player, but to me, I'm like, you kind of hit your ceiling a couple of years ago, and then you've been injured really ever since. So I'm of the mindset to say the window is closed on Avonte Maddox. And
wow, you're willing to move on from Avonte. I mean, it's not surprising. It's not like a reach to say that, but then again, we're already so short on depth in that secondary. It's like, wow, you're willing to let him go. But I hear what you're saying. Absolutely, he's a guy who plays well when he's in there, but he's not in there that often. He's hurt a lot, and he keeps getting hurt.
Nope. And the young guys got their chance last year, and I'm like, you're going to stunt the growth of some of these injured on the field who actually there's what potential is there for him, and where the best we've seen. Yeah. And I don't think there's much potential. So I want to see the younger guys go. I think the window's closed for Maddox.
Okay, I think it's a good justified pick and reasoning behind that. I think that makes a lot of sense to put him on that list. I'm going to go with Nakobe Dean. Now, here's a guy that I predicted when they drafted him would be the captain of this defense within 3 years. I'm not about to say that anymore. I need to see the guy play. Here's what I need to see. And another guy who I still think he's got a promising future, but my God, he can't stay on the field either. And that was the biggest concern. Probably the reason why he slid in the draft is because other teams were concerned about the guy's size and not being able to hold up in the NFL. And so far, those teams have been right. And the Eagles are holding the bag with Nakobe Dean right now. And I think for next year is put up or shut up for Nakobe Dean.
I agree with that wholeheartedly. I think we were all hoping to see a Nakobe Dean who is quicker and faster than the pulling guards and tight ends that were blocking him, but instead we've just seen him get run over and injured.
I'm glad you brought that up too, because I meant to say that too. When I have seen Dean play, I'm not overly impressed.
No, can't seem to.
So I'm glad you brought that up, because that was the other point I was going to make.
So, I think that's one thing that'll be very helpful with the new defensive scheme coming in, is because they won't have any trouble saying, well, he's our guy. Nope, they're going to be like, he either can play or can't play. And that window may be closed emphatically just this year. They'll probably let him take that lead in camp, I would imagine.
Yeah, I would too. I'd give him a shot at being the guy, but man, he's got to stay healthy. And then when he's on the field, he's got to be more of an impactful player than he's shown so far.
Yeah, totally agree. I mean, he lost his position due to injury last year, but would he have played better than Nick Morrow? I don't know. He's right in that mix of like nothing spectacular. So I totally agree. He gets one last shot. So the window's not closed. Window's open, and it's make it or break it time for Dean. I agree.
Yeah. Do you have any others that you want to add? Be your turn.
I'm not sure if I have a name, but I have a position.
Okay.
How is it that when Dallas Goedert was injured last year, that they couldn't find any production from anybody playing tight end behind Goedert?
Yeah, they really couldn't. I mean, what's his name there?
Julio, I guess, took that production. Julio Jones.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, they ended up going to the wide receiver.
Yeah, so I'm kind of like, Is there a
They
tight
didn't
end on
use
the
that
roster that's
Okawiba Bunum guy. I totally just butchered his name, but that guy's 6'5", 260, and he had a pretty decent little career, short career with Denver, and they didn't use him at all.
Yep, and they already re-signed him this year, so he's definitely going to be on the roster. So, but I'm kind of like, hey, any tight end that we've drafted or signed as a free agent, any of you guys?
Yeah, somebody want to step up?
Step up and,
yeah. I think we're losing you there. You're cutting out a little bit. Are you heading into one of your dead zones?
Oh, yeah, I'm in the dead zone. You got me back yet?
Yeah, you're back. You're back.
Okay, yeah, I'm just looking for any tight end to step up and catch a ball. So, like, the window for me is closing on every single backup to Goddard.
Yeah. Because,
like,
I mean, yeah, and the guy that, usually catches everything. I mean, I have to say that, what's his name there? The tight end that kind of is like their number 2 guy, but he's mostly in there to block. Stoll.
Yeah.
Stoll, when they do throw to him, he does catch the ball. He just has no ability to break a tackle or get a yard afterwards. That's all. So it's like he catches it. That's basically it. That's your game. Yeah. So yeah, we need a tight end. Now here's the guy that I won't call make or break because I just think the Eagles need to use him more. I think he's a free agent too, or a free agent to be. I would give Zacchaeus more opportunities because that guy, every time they threw to him, he seemed to not only catch it, but he made some big catches in critical moments. And they just didn't throw to him that much last year. Like I'd like to see more of him. I'd like to see more of him.
Yeah, and he's a perfect window open player, right? So like, as you mentioned him, I'll throw in the window closed.
Quez Watkins, exactly. Like right now, I'd go with Zacchaeus over Quez Watkins.
100%. I'm so tired of hearing this. Well, he's got the speed. I'm like, the speed doesn't matter. Tell me when Hines Ward ever needed speed to be an all-pro wide receiver that could catch the ball and get first downs and catch touchdowns and catch bombs. Like,
yeah, who was that guy that was always he was always good at special teams and run back kicks, but he was never, and he really was a starting drafted to be a wide receiver, but really never ever made it as a wide receiver. Was it Ted Ginn? That's what I'm thinking of.
Ted Ginn Jr., yeah.
Yeah, yep. All the speed in the world, but couldn't play wide receiver, so they made him a kick returner, which he was very good at.
Same with John Ross of the Bengals.
Oh, yeah, he never made it either, speed guy.
Yeah, former record holder. I guess the kid at the combine broke it.
Yeah, just broke it, right.
Insane, like low 4.2 or even a 4.1.
It was crazy how fast that guy is, yeah.
Yeah, but if you can't Jerry Rice that ball when it's coming.
Yeah, you got to be able to catch it. I mean, I don't care how fast you are if you can't catch the ball.
Yep. So, like, Watkins, your window's closed because, Nelson Aguilar was a better receiver than you were.
Yeah, I agree. And Aguilar has actually been a pretty productive player since he left the Eagles.
Pretty good Raven. Yeah, he's doing pretty good on those Ravens.
Yeah, he wasn't bad in the Patriots either.
Yep.
He's actually, etched out a pretty decent. I mean, he's never going to be a star or be mistaken for that, but he's been a workable wide receiver in the NFL.
Yep.
I'll never forget that drop against the sideline against the Falcons, though. I'm never going to forget that. It was freaking Carson Wentz put it right in his hands and he dropped it. I'll never forget that play.
So I got 2 defensive players window closing, and one I think is closed more than the other, but the other one's on its way. And I'll say James Bradbury and Josh Sweat. Let's talk about those guys for a second.
Well, I'm high on Sweat. I just think that I'm high on Sweat, but I do think that he's slowing down, and I think that knee might, that's always been the concern because he had 2 major knee operations in high school, one in high school and I think one in college. So he does have a bum knee, which is why he went. He would have been a first-round pick. He was like the number 1 recruit. He was the number 1 high school recruit coming out of high school, and he tore his knee his senior year, and he also injured it again in college. So he's got a really bad knee, and I think we're starting to see, like, I don't know, he should be coming into his prime now and becoming probably the most dominant he's ever been. I don't know if dominant's the right word. It's kind of a stretch to say dominant, but he should be at his best right now. And he's taken a step back last year. He started off good. He had like 6 sacks in the first 10 games and then really disappeared. And so you wonder now if that leg is going to, make him have a shorter career than we're all hoping for.
Yeah. So I think he falls into that category. Like, this is a make or break season for Josh Sweat.
Yeah, I guess so. I don't know if
Bradbury,
I'd say make or break because I think he's already made it, but like he's had some good years with the Eagles.
yep.
But if you're talking about like, do they extend him or not? Is that what you mean by make or break? Because
I'm talking about the Eagles' window being open of like him
yeah,
staying here producing, and I'm like, I think he missed that jump, jump across the threshold last year.
yeah, I predicted him to
Being
have more sacks
truly,
than Reddick, and I was totally wrong. So
yeah, and that's where I thought he could be too, right? If he was, I don't want to, but you know what the perfect term is from my point of view is lackluster. That doesn't mean you're a bust. That doesn't mean you're not a good player. It just means the luster.
oh, I see. Well, lackluster to me has a kind of a negative connotation, like he's a lazy player.
It does.
Like I don't think he's lazy. I think
Like,
I think he gives effort.
Like it's not a guy. If you were a free agent, who's going to be falling over their?
Yeah, nobody's going to be tripping over themselves to sign Josh Sweat. If that's what you mean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's where his window might be closing. It's not closed yet. Bradbury, on the other hand, his window closed firmly, I think, last year.
Yeah, I don't know if it's age. It's probably a combination of both. And the play in the Super Bowl, I think he's just lost confidence, and he was just a shell of himself last year. But the Eagles are stuck with his contract, though. So they either have to eat and swallow a huge amount of money that's guaranteed to him, or they have to figure out how to get him back some way, shape, or form so he's at least a somewhat productive contributor.
Yeah,
because teams are going to continue to pick on him when he's out there until he proves otherwise. I mean, every team in the playoffs went right after him. Any big game, they all went after him, and they all succeeded pretty much.
I don't want to see him on the hash marks covering wideouts. And if you put him in the slot, well then okay, then Maddox is definitely not having a spot. So it's either Maddox or Bradbury if you want to improve that defense at that slot corner spot.
Well, that's interesting that you just brought that up because, we were talking about Maddox. Do you bring him back with his injury prone? You're stuck with Bradbury regardless of whatever you do with him. So maybe their plan might be to let Maddox go and make Bradbury their slot guy.
Yep.
Because they have to use him anyway.
He'd probably still be good enough to do that.
That might be their plan. That might be their plan. Yeah.
Yeah. If he only has to worry about crossing routes in the slot and hook routes and not really, I guess he'd have to worry about the seams long time, the seams going straight down the middle. But I imagine one of them is not going to see a lot of playing time.
Well, Bradbury is 30, so he's going to be 31 going into next season. So he's not like ancient, but he is on the other side of 30. So,
And I think window for Slay to stay is Slay's pretty decent still at cornerback. So that's all. The few guys that are on top of my mind, I think we've already addressed. You got any more?
No, I think that's it because I was going to mention Watkins, but we did mention him. I don't really think. I'll tell you the guy that was on the just to say give an example that was on this list last year. Not that we did this list, but a guy who was put up or shut up was Covey. And here's a guy that had a great season and was. I know you were even more down on him than I was. I was like, yeah, give him a chance. He's
way down on him. I'm like, that guy gets tackled by people with a finger on him.
The Breeze would tackle him. Yeah, there was plays, and he's gotten a lot better at it, where he was just, getting absolutely blasted. Felt bad for him. He was getting killed.
Yep.
But, he had a great season.
He got into that window crevice and shoved his window wide open for you.
Yeah, so the question will be, and that's the purpose of this list, is who will be the Britton Covey for 2024 on the Eagles? And we hope it's some of these guys we were talking about. Hopefully it's Nakobe Dean. Hopefully it's who's the first guy you mentioned?
Well, what's funny is off the bat, I'm like, I hope it's somebody on defense.
It's probably Nakobe. I mean, the guy the Eagles are banking on the most is Nakobe Dean. I mean, if they end up missing on him, then they have absolutely nothing at linebacker. I mean, drop dead zero, nothing.
Zero. Yep.
And they got lucky. Cunningham was as good as he was last year. They would have had absolutely nothing last year. Cunningham at least was halfway decent, had a pretty good year. And Morrow,
Yeah.
even though he got smoked and couldn't cover anyone, at least he made plays against the run and pass rushing.
Yes. Yep. At least for the first half of the season. I mean, everybody kind of disappeared, I guess, in the second half. But
Yeah, true. All right. Well, we're at the 60-minute mark, and don't want to jeopardize losing the podcast. So, Matt, thanks again for joining. We'll have to do the grades, or we'll have you on. We're definitely going to have you on during the draft preview for sure. But as you know, you're always welcome to come on. We always appreciate your contributions to the podcast. And yeah, so any closing thoughts?
Just celebrate Kelsey. That's about it. Celebrate Kelsey to the draft, and let's watch where he goes, because he's not leaving the Philadelphia media anytime soon at all.
Yeah,
wonderful.
Very true. Right, and so yeah, on behalf of Philadelphia Eagles Talk with Geoff and Matt, Jason Kelsey, hats off to you for a stellar Philadelphia Eagles career, and wish you nothing but the best going forward. All right, with that said, that'll do it for this episode of Philadelphia Eagles Talk with Geoff, as we're closing in on 200 episodes. I think we're like 5 away. So how awesome is that? It's amazing that we're approaching 200 episodes. Thank you for being with me along the way, or if you just joined me, welcome aboard. And we'll catch you next time on Philadelphia Eagles Talk with Geoff. Until then, fly, Eagles, fly. Take care, everybody. We'll see you next time.